Most people fall in love with the Belgian Malinois for all the wrong reasons. They see viral clips of dogs flying through the air, smashing suspects to the ground, or standing like warriors beside soldiers. They imagine that bringing one home will make them stronger, safer, or somehow more respected. But reality isn't Instagram. Reality is sleepless nights, shredded furniture, and a kind of intensity that almost no family is prepared for. That's why 9 out of 10 Malinois owners regret their choice, and by the time regret sets in, it's already too late to fix. The Malinois is not a dog that slips neatly into your routine. It tears your routine apart and demands you build a new life around it. At first, new owners convince themselves it's just like a German Shepherd but smarter. But more intelligence doesn't mean easier. It means more demanding, more exhausting, and far less forgiving. This breed was built for pressure, chaos, and non-stop work. Without structure, it doesn't just get restless, it detonates. The first regret comes with energy. Owners believe a long walk will be enough. They think a jog or a trip to the park will do the trick. But to a Malinois, that's not work, that's barely a warm-up. This dog doesn't just crave exercise. It craves missions, obstacles, and battles that leave it drained. Without them, chaos begins. Furniture is ripped to pieces. Yards become minefields. Doors splinter as the dog tries to escape boredom. And when you think it must be tired, it's not. It's still pacing, waiting for more. That's when regret hits. Owners realize they don't have a pet, they have a fire that never stops burning. The second regret is obedience. They thought sit, stay, come would keep control. But with a Malinois, that's child's play. This dog learns in seconds, remembers forever, and constantly tests you. If your rules wobble even once, it will notice, and it will exploit. And once the Malinois discovers it can win against you, you're done. Respect vanishes. Control slips through your hands. You don't own the dog anymore, the dog owns you. The third regret is bonding. Owners love the way the Malinois bonds quickly and deeply. At first, it feels flattering. But that bond soon hardens into obsession. Suddenly the dog panics when left alone. It tears at doors, howls for hours, and smashes windows. Strangers can no longer approach, not because you trained it that way, but because the dog has decided you belong only to it. What felt like loyalty becomes suffocation. And once that obsession takes hold, there's no easy way back. Shelters are full of Malinois whose owners reached this breaking point. Dogs labeled aggressive or dangerous when really, they were just betrayed by people who misunderstood them. One family brought home a Malinois puppy thinking it would grow into protection. Within months, they were drowning in destruction and sleepless nights. They admitted it was the biggest mistake of their lives. Another man said, "It felt like the dog was training me, not the other way around." His Malinois outsmarted him daily. He regretted underestimating it. Even experienced handlers aren't safe. With most breeds, mistakes are recoverable. With a Malinois, mistakes multiply. One missed training session becomes weeks of chaos. And once the Malinois no longer respects you, it's nearly impossible to win that ground back. Regret doesn't creep in quietly, it lands like a hammer. Every interaction becomes a test you can't pass. Owners describe the crushing weight of failure as if their own home had turned against them. The trust is gone, and the gap between handler and dog grows wider each day until it feels unfixable. That's why so many owners suffer in silence. They don't just fear being judged by neighbors or friends, they fear being seen as weak, as quitters, as people who couldn't handle their dog. Behind closed doors, families argue about what to do, often too embarrassed to admit they are out of their depth. The dog becomes the secret no one talks about, the problem everyone tiptoes around while resentment builds. The regret doesn't just stay inside the house. It spreads outward like ripples in a pond. Complaints from neighbors about endless barking turn into warnings, warnings into threats. Landlords lose patience, family members refuse to visit, and suddenly the home feels like a prison locked down by one animal. Even friendships strain, because no one wants to risk visiting a house where chaos lives. And still, people think they can manage. They convince themselves that stronger leashes, bigger crates, and chew-proof toys will somehow reign in the storm. They scroll online shops late at night, desperate to buy their way out of the problem. But equipment only masks symptoms, it never addresses the root issue. A Malinois without leadership is a Malinois without purpose, and no amount of gear will substitute for structure. A tactical harness can help, yes, it gives leverage, stability, and safety in the moment. But it cannot replace authority, nor can it fix a broken bond. The strongest harness in the world won't help if the dog has already learned it can overpower you. And without the confidence, skill, and discipline behind the leash, even the best gear becomes nothing more than a false sense of control. Contrast this with the rare 1 out of 10 who succeed. These owners don't treat training as a chore, it is their daily rhythm, their ritual. They wake early, plan their schedules around the dog, and measure progress not in weeks but in years. Their homes aren't decorated with convenience, but with treadmills, climbing structures, and bite sleeves. The dog is not a hobby. It's the axis their life revolves around. Their Malinois doesn't just get exercise, it gets purpose. One day it's drilling obedience under distraction, the next day it's solving complex puzzles, the day after that it's practicing controlled aggression. These owners treat every spark of energy as fuel, channeling it into outlets before it has the chance to ignite destruction. The result is balance, but balance built on sweat, sacrifice, and relentless consistency. Every ounce of energy is accounted for, every moment of downtime carefully managed. These owners understand that respect is not earned once but demanded daily. And that is why they don't regret it. They don't just own their Malinois, they rise to meet it. In return, they gain something few others ever experience, the loyalty of a partner forged in discipline. But even they admit, it's not casual. It's not getting a dog in the way most people imagine. It's an unending cycle of training, bonding, and recalibrating. They miss vacations. They cancel plans. Their social life bends around the animal because the Malinois is not adaptable, it requires the world to adapt to it. These owners thrive because they embrace the hardship, not because they escaped it. Meanwhile, the 9 out of 10 who fail don't realize the danger until it's too late. Their Malinois has already outpaced their energy, outsmarted their strategies, and cemented habits that can no longer be undone. What began as excitement collapses into dread. The dog isn't just in their home, it consumes it. Regret becomes their only consistent companion. Military handlers know this truth better than anyone. They don't label the Malinois as pet because that would be a disservice. They call it a tool, a partner, a force multiplier. And even in environments with multiple handlers, rigid schedules, and unlimited resources, the Malinois tests the boundaries of human patience. If the strongest teams in the world struggle, what chance does a weekend warrior or suburban family truly have? If soldiers admit the Malinois can break them, the reality for civilians should be obvious. The breed was not created for backyards or casual owners, it was bred for battle, chaos, and relentless demands. Without that context, ordinary people find themselves overwhelmed, trying to tame a hurricane with bare hands. That's why this statistic feels merciless. 9 out of 10 regret it. They don't just regret the cost or the sleepless nights, they regret the loss of peace, the strain on relationships, and the weight of failure pressing down every day. They walk away broken, embarrassed, convinced they weren't enough. The rare 1 in 10 who succeed know something others don't. They understand that ownership isn't about affection, it's about structure. They recognize that every rule is absolute, every boundary enforced, every ounce of energy directed. They don't bend those rules because the Malinois never forgets, never forgives, and never stops testing. Purpose is not optional, it is survival. And still, even those rare handlers confess the truth, this breed isn't for everyone. It demands more than most people can give, more than most people even realize they're signing up for. To thrive, you must commit not halfway, but fully, body, mind, and lifestyle. Anything less becomes disaster. So before you imagine yourself in that 1 in 10, pause. Ask yourself, are you prepared to sacrifice convenience, to rebuild your routines, to shoulder sleepless nights and relentless training? Are you ready for a bond so consuming it blurs the line between love and suffocation? Because if the answer is no, regret isn't just possible, it's guaranteed. Once regret takes root, there's no going back. The Malinois doesn't compromise, doesn't soften, doesn't adapt. It will demand you change your life or be broken by the attempt. This is not a breed you can try. It is a breed you either dedicate your life to, or walk away from before it's too late. Rise to the challenge, and you'll stand beside a warrior whose loyalty is unmatched. Fail to rise, and you'll join the 9 out of 10 who whisper the same bitter word, regret.